here is everything that I read last week, and I just kind of wanted to talk about what I thought of them. I did read 2, 4, 6, 8 volumes last week, so a little bit more than one a day. So I've been kind of slowly getting back to my normal reading process, which is about 1 volume a day. Starting off, not so strong unfortunately, I read volume 14 of Colette. This one is being published in English. I think there's about 3 or 4 omnis published so far. I do know this one has 21 single volumes in Japanese, so this is a completed series in Japanese. Volume 14 was my least favorite volume of the series so far, which is why I'm really bummed about it. This is my favorite shoujo, of all time. I love this series so much. So the fact that I didn't like it was really upsetting. I was kind of having a hard time and I wanted something to cheer me up, and normally my favorite series will cheer me up, but I did not like this volume at all. There was a lot of really interesting progression. There was some character development, but there's 4 new characters introduced in this volume, and I didn't like any of them. One of them I was kind of okay with, but the rest of them I did not like, and one of them I just straight up he annoyed me every single time he was on not the screen, but the page, and he was on every page basically. Really unhappy with this volume, but I am interested in seeing where the plot goes. I do think these 4 new characters are going to be kind of main cast come volume 15. I do feel like they're going to be in every single volume from here on out, which makes me a little bit sad, but the plot is interesting. It's moving in an interesting direction, so I'm trying to see the positive, not focus all on the negative. Speaking of negative, I also read Trapped by His Love, the Duke's Unexpected Bride. This is volume 2. I read volume 1 and I thought it was cute. I liked it. I did have some complaints about the translation. Mainly they dropped the L-bomb a little bit too soon, and I don't like that. And I get it's a translation thing, because how do you translate ski? It gets hard. It's ambiguous is a good word to describe it. So I didn't love that about volume 1, but I liked it enough to try out volume 2. I did not like volume 2. Our female lead is much too compliant, she apologizes too easily, and it kind of bugs me. And our male lead here is just really strangely obsessive with her. And normally I can get behind an obsessive male lead. I do like some of those more out there series, but in this one I found her just to be so weak-willed that I found it just to be annoying. And the whole premise of this series is she needs to get away from a potential fiance who was kind of abusive to her whole childhood, and it's revealed that he's abusive to her because he loves her so much that he needs to show her that not all men actually love her, only he loves her. That's why he's abusive to her. And it's stupid. So for her to get away from that abusive guy, she decides to propose to the first man she sees, who happens to be this man, who just so happens to be secretly obsessive with her, and he just shows his obsession to her in a more kind way than her other would-be fiance. So either way, she's with a strange man, and she'll apologize for breathing wrong, basically. And I don't like it. I'm not going to be continuing with it. But moving on from those 2 that I didn't like, I read, this is a Tokyopop one-shot, The Stranger in the Hoarding House. This one I did like. And I will say, typically, I don't really enjoy one-shot BLs because I find that they're more so focused on romance more than anything, and I don't like that. I like a romance that has plot, that teaches us about the characters, that have stakes, I want to care about the characters. And when it's only romance from first to last page with no development, I don't care, But this one I really liked. One-shots normally, they don't have enough pages for me to be able to care, but this one did. This one focused more so on plot and character development rather than romance. Don't get me wrong, there is still romance in this volume, just not that much. And I really liked it. I think it had a good balance of everything. I cared about the characters, I was interested in the plot, and I really liked it. The premise is basically this man, after going through an episode at work, a justified episode in my opinion, he becomes a shut-in, he doesn't leave his bed, garbage is piling up everywhere. So his landlady's worried because it's stinky in his outside of his apartment. So the landlady asks his neighbor, who he's never met, to check on him. And so he hops into his house through a broken window, literally, and then kind of forces him to get better, is kind of a very, very broad way of describing it. They clean his apartment together, and they kind of grow on from, they both have their own traumas, and through cleaning, they clean their own traumas, kind of. Very, very simplified explanation, but it's a very good series. Or I guess volume, because it's a one-shot. I also read volume 3 of The Failure at God School. If you're not reading this one, you definitely should be reading this one. This is it's published in English too, which is why I say the English title. This one has, I think, 2 or 3 volumes published in English, I think. It's very long in Japanese so far. There's at least 11 volumes published in Japanese. It's so good. It's shoujo. People call it romantasy. There's no romance yet as of volume 3. This is more of a fantasy adventure, not slice of life, but like daily high school fantasy life kind of series. There's mystery elements. It's just very interesting. Highly, highly recommend it. The overall premise is our female lead here, Nagi, has mystical powers. She doesn't know what kind of mystical powers, but she has mystical powers. So to learn how to use them, she's sent to God School. And in God School, she meets other people who also have powers, but everybody knows their own power. The only one who doesn't know their power is our Nagi here. So in order to become a god, she has to be able to figure out first what her powers are, and then second, how to use her powers. And it just kind of follows her story. And there is an overarching mystery going on. It's very, very interesting. All of the side characters are super interesting. Everything about it I really like. I feel like everybody who's introduced has a reason to be introduced, and they're given time to grow as characters. Only in volume 3, obviously not everybody's grown all that much, but there's no like really one-note character. Everybody is slowly growing, and I really enjoy it. I also read volume 1 of Kon'yakusha wa Dekiai no Furi. This is an HC Lala series, so obviously I love it. I love everything HC Lala right now. This one does not have English out yet, unfortunately. I think there's about 6 volumes in Japanese. I only have the first 2, but this is such a good series. It's a romance series. I don't think it's fantasy, because at least in volume 1, there's no fantasy elements. And this series talks about a girl from a aristocratic family who, in order to save them from bankruptcy, needs to find a rich husband. And so she's been making her way throughout every rich man that she can see, or that she can find, and tries to get into a relationship with them, but she's really bad at romance, and every man she ends up dating breaks up with her. And she's never really given a concrete reason as to why they're breaking up with her. It's just kind of like it's not working out, like, it's not you, it's me kind of thing. So on top of her being bad at romance, she doesn't know how to fix the problem. She's really good with money and accounting and figuring out taxes and whatnot. So she's good with logical things. It's just emotional things she doesn't know how to deal with. And so the last man in her social circle, who's very rich, that she hasn't proposed to, is this man right here. So she goes for it, proposes to him, and he accepts on the spot. And now they're engaged. And she's a little bit weirded out with, like, why did you accept without questioning? But it turns out he also has a reason that he needs to be engaged. So neither of them actually loves each other. They're both in this engagement on, like, their own terms. Hers are revealed, like, instantly. She needs money. But his are still kind of a mystery. He does reveal part of why he needs to be in a contract relationship or a contract fiancé relationship. But the whole thing is clearly not yet revealed. He's still very mysterious. This is a very interesting one. Lots of politics at play. So there's more than just romance. It's very interesting. I reread volume 1 of Kimi to Barairo no Hibi because volume 2 is finally coming out next week. This volume was published, I think, like 2 years ago, I think. It's been a minute since it was released. And I heard news that volume 2 is finally coming out, and I could not remember what happened in volume 1, so I read volume 1 again, and it's very good. This is a high school shoujo romance series. It's beautiful. The character design is gorgeous. Every single character is beautiful. It tells the story about a honors student who's kind of put on a pedestal by her professors and everybody at school, when in reality, she's just a normal teenager, and she would do normal teenager things given the opportunity. One day, when a teacher pushes his responsibilities off on her, she finds herself tutoring this mysterious boy who everybody's kind of afraid of, and he clocks her right away. He tells her, like, you seem to be like the kind of person who would buy a broken vase for like $10,000. Like, you seem to be the type of person who would be scammed and thank the scammer. And she's like, what? And then it kind of shows their relationship. There are some misunderstandings with him being rather blunt and mean, but like the very next page, it'll be revealed why he was being blunt. So while there are misunderstandings, they are revealed right away. So like, if that bothers you, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you can get over that, it's very good. I really enjoyed it. It doesn't end on a cliffhanger per se, but the end of volume 1 really makes you want to read on, because there's new characters introduced, there's new things happening, and I'm very glad I can finally read on from next week. I also read volume 4 of Otaku Vampire's Love Bite. This one does have an English publication. I think there's 7 or 8 volumes published in Japanese, and then I think 3 or 4 in English. This is by Julieta Suzuki, who also wrote Kami-sama Kiss. I prefer Kami-sama Kiss to Vampire Otaku, but Vampire Otaku is still very, very good. The overall premise of this series is a vampire otaku who really likes Japanese culture or like Japanese popular culture. So she moves to Japan in order to live her best otaku life. And like, who can fault her for that? So that's what this is about. This volume's, it's okay. Like, it's not my favorite volume, but I am still really enjoying it. We are introduced to a new character who I'm very excited about. He's introduced in the latter half, and he's on the cover for volume 5. So I'm assuming he'll be an integral part of the story, at least in volume 5. So I'm excited to continue reading. And then lastly, I read Okaeri Hatsukoi. This one's the biggest one that I read this week, and it is full color. I really, really like this one. I do think it was a web novel before it was printed, just by the way the story is told. It feels very web novel-esque. This is about a couple who, when they were in high school, they both liked each other, but neither of them confessed. She was kind of an outcast, kind of, and he was a Yankee. He moved away before anything could happen 10 years ago. 10-ish years ago. 10-ish years later, they meet again as co-workers. This time, they do end up dating, they confess, and they end up dating. And the whole series is about like how they were 10 years ago and how they were now. It's all comparisons. And while this story, it does have a plot, per se, it goes more on vibes, I would say. Like, it's very cute. There's a lot of different like scenarios, and it's fun. I don't get too into it because it's not really plot heavy, but I like the art, I like the character design, and I think it's a really cute premise. And that is everything that I read this week. Hopefully I'll continue reading about like 8 to 10 volumes a week, because I have a lot to read. I have a lot on my TBR, and I've barely made a dent on it.